Picture this. You've got a doctor living in Chicago, and she's making $380,000 a year. She's driving a leased BMW, her kids are in private school, and she's eating at these just absolutely fantastic restaurants most weeknights. Now on paper, she's wealthy, right? But the reality? If an emergency hit today, she literally couldn't come up with $5,000 without either selling something or going straight into debt.
Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this because it's honestly a fascinating paradox. We're going to unpack exactly why massive salaries simply don't automatically equal financial security. I mean, we all carry this assumption that hitting six figures or finally crossing that $500,000 mark means your financial stress is just going to vanish. But as we're about to see, the math tells a completely different story. Section 1. The high-income illusion. Let's start by completely shattering our cultural assumptions here. Just look at the sheer scale of this illusion. According to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. Let that sink in for a second. 4 out of 10 people making up to $500,000 annually feel like they have absolutely zero financial cushion. They're earning more in a single month than a lot of Americans earn in an entire year, and yet they are experiencing the exact same financial anxiety.
And this counterintuitive trend is widespread. Look at the data from a recent PYMTS study. 48% of folks earning $100,000 or more feel they're living paycheck to paycheck. And even when you jump up to the $200,000 plus level, it's still 36%. Plus, Bank of America found that nearly 20% of households earning over $150,000 are spending more than 95% of their income just on necessities. So, higher income is actually correlating with severe reported financial strain.
Section 2. Anatomy of the trap. To really understand why this happens, we need to look under the hood. You see, the crucial thing we have to understand is lifestyle inflation. These aren't people who can't do math, right? They completely understand compound interest. But the trap operates entirely on psychology, not arithmetic. It's this phenomenon where, when your income increases, your spending increases in exact direct proportion.
And here's exactly how lifestyle inflation creeps in. It's so unbelievably gradual, most people never even notice it's happening. Step 1, that perfectly fine $15 lunch suddenly becomes a $25 lunch. Step 2, the reliable Honda gets traded in for a leased BMW. Step 3, the apartment turns into a massive house with a guest room that, let's be honest, no one ever uses. Each individual upgrade feels completely reasonable in the moment. I mean, you earned it, right? But all those upgrades compound while your savings just stay completely flat. And downgrading? Well, suddenly that feels like deprivation.
It is literally death by 1,000 convenience cuts. According to Empower data, spending on food delivery is up 10.2% year over year. That is $2,148 a year spent just on delivery apps. Streaming services up 12.5%. Rideshares up 7.9%. And for high earners, this scales all the way up to first-class flights and luxury hotels over Airbnbs. All these expenses vanish without giving you any lasting value, but they compound into a rigid expensive lifestyle that requires maximum income just to keep the lights on.
Which leads us to a massive, glaring red flag. Q4 2025 Federal Reserve data shows that total U.S. credit card debt hit $1.277 trillion. But here is the real kicker. The top 20% of earners hold 35% of that debt. You see, lower-income households tend to use credit to survive when the cash runs out. But higher-income households, they're using credit to strictly maintain a lifestyle that technically fits their income but leaves them absolutely zero margin for error.
Section 3. Real millionaires behave differently. Let's pivot for a second and contrast these highly stressed earners with the surprisingly boring habits of real wealth builders.
It is absolutely fascinating to look at these numbers from Ramsey Solutions and Empower. Check this out. 94% of actual millionaires live in modest or middle-class neighborhoods. 62% of them still budget and shop for deals. The typical millionaire has rarely spent more than $399 on an article of clothing, and 60% live in homes worth less than $500,000. True wealth accumulators rarely show off their wealth. Honestly, it's exactly why Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought back in 1958 for $31,500. The authors of the book, The Millionaire Next Door, came up with 2 amazing categories to explain this. First, you have the UAW, or underaccumulator of wealth. Think of our $700,000 a year doctor trapped by massively high fixed costs. Then you have the PAW, the prodigious accumulator of wealth. This could literally be a $50,000 a year janitor who just consistently invests. It's your spending habits, not your income levels, that determine which category you fall into. Want to know which one you are? I want you to test yourself right now using this formula. Take your age, multiply it by your pre-tax annual household income, and divide that whole thing by 10. That number is what your net worth actually should be. So, a 50-year-old earning $250,000 should have a net worth of $1.25 million. If you are sitting below your number right now, you're an underaccumulator. You're aggressively spending your income instead of building wealth.
And building that wealth, it takes time. It is intentionally gradual, and frankly, it's a little boring. 79% of millionaires are completely self-made. Only 31% averaged over $100,000 a year during their careers. 73% have never, and I mean never, carried a credit card balance. And the average time it takes to hit that first million? 28 years. They usually hit it right around age 49. It is all about consistent behavior and letting the magic of compound interest do its thing.
Section 4. The psychology of enough. If the math is so incredibly simple, why is it so hard to actually do?
Well, this Charles Schwab 2025 Wealth Survey perfectly captures what we call the hedonic treadmill. The median U.S. net worth right now is roughly $193,000, but people believe they need $839,000 just to feel comfortable and a staggering $2.3 million to be considered wealthy. 63% of respondents said it takes more money just to feel wealthy today than it did last year. So when you make $400,000 but your net worth is lower than you think it should be, you don't feel rich, you feel behind. The goalposts just constantly keep moving, and social media comparison is just throwing gasoline on that fire.
Section 5. Escaping the poverty trap. But listen, there is a way out. Let's shift gears and lay out the concrete math you need to escape this cycle.
First off, we have to look at our default behaviors. Look at the U.S. personal savings rate in December 2025. It's sitting at an anemic 3.6%. Now compare that to the pandemic peak back in April 2020, which was 33.8%. What does this tell us? It proves that whenever spending opportunities exist, we default to consumption. When everything was closed down, Americans accidentally got a taste of what aggressive saving actually felt like.
So to fix this, you have to adopt the automation principle. This is the absolute foundation of wealth. You must spend what is left after saving. You do not save what is left after spending. Actual millionaires treat a 15% minimum investment as completely non-negotiable. They pay themselves first, before the necessities, before the lifestyle upgrades, before literally everything else.
Okay, let me hit you with a bit of a mathematical gut punch to show you exactly why this matters so much. Let's look at a $300,000 income over 20 years, assuming 7% returns. The person who saves 5% ends up with about $650,000. But the person who saves 30%, they end up with roughly $4 million. That is a staggering $3.35 million opportunity cost, simply from falling for the high-income poverty trap. One person builds generational wealth, the other just has a bunch of lifestyle memories and minimal assets.
So I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. What is all this spending actually for? If you're a high earner and you're feeling stretched thin, I challenge you to audit your recurring expenses. Are you optimizing for current consumption just to look wealthy? Or are you willing to accept a little current constraint to actually be wealthy? Choose intention over performative spending, because at the end of the day, it really isn't about what you make, it's about what you keep.